When Bitcoin hit 60K, everyone told me I was stupid for sticking to boring index funds. Some friends made 10x returns, some lost everything in the crash. I never became a crypto legend. But here's what I did gain: stability, sleep, and a portfolio that grows even when trending assets die. This is the story no one talks about, the quiet compounding path. Hi, friend. Welcome back to Harper Mumblings. When Bitcoin hit $60,000, everyone told me I was stupid for sticking to boring index funds. Some friends made 10 times returns. Some lost everything in the crash. I never became a crypto legend, but here is what I did gain: stability, sleep, and a portfolio that grows even when trending assets die. This is the story no one talks about, the quiet compounding path. Welcome to Harper Mumbling. The investor at the heart of this story is John, and his decision to ignore the biggest speculative mania of his generation teaches us something profound about what wealth actually means and what price you pay for chasing it. John's crypto temptation began in late 2020 when Bitcoin started its legendary run from $10,000 toward its peak of nearly $70,000. His college roommate, someone he had always considered financially reckless, sent him a screenshot showing a portfolio up 240% in 6 months. The message was simple: dude, get in now before you miss it. John looked at his own portfolio, a collection of total market index funds and bond funds, up a respectable but boring 12% for the year. The contrast was brutal. The social pressure intensified throughout 2021. Group chats filled with crypto discussions. Friends who had never invested before were suddenly experts on blockchain technology, decentralized finance, tokenomics, and which altcoins were going to moon next. John attended a birthday party where 3 separate conversations revolved around cryptocurrency profits. One friend had bought a new car with Bitcoin gains. Another was planning a vacation funded entirely by Ethereum returns. A third was researching how to retire early based on projected crypto appreciation. John felt like the only person in the room who had not received the memo about free money. He went home that night and did what any rational person would do. He researched. He read about blockchain technology, studied Bitcoin's history, analyzed Ethereum's use cases, explored the various altcoins and their value propositions. The more he learned, the more confused he became. Some of it made sense. Some of it sounded revolutionary. Some of it sounded like pure speculation dressed up in technical language. He could not tell the difference between genuine innovation and elaborate narrative construction designed to justify price increases. Here's where John made his first critical decision. He asked himself a simple question: do I understand this well enough to know when to sell? Buying is easy. Everyone buys when prices are rising and enthusiasm is high. But at what price would he sell? If Bitcoin hit 100,000, would he sell or hold for 200,000? If it dropped to 40,000, would he buy more or cut his losses? Without clear answers to these questions, he realized he would be making emotional decisions in real time, exactly the kind of investing behavior that destroys returns. John compared this to his index fund strategy. With index funds, the sell decision was easy. Never, or at least not until retirement decades away. He was buying the entire market, betting that the economy would grow over time, owning a piece of thousands of companies simultaneously. He did not need to predict which companies would succeed or when to exit positions. The strategy was simple, clear, and emotion-free. Cryptocurrency offered none of that clarity. It offered the possibility of huge returns, but it demanded constant decisions, constant monitoring, constant emotional management. His second critical decision came from running the numbers on risk. John had been investing $600 per month into his index funds for 3 years. His portfolio had grown to roughly $25,000. If he diverted his monthly investment into cryptocurrency and it went to zero, he would be giving up the guaranteed power of compound interest on that $600. If cryptocurrency succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, he might make life-changing money. But if it failed, he would have sacrificed years of steady wealth building. The asymmetry bothered him. He was risking something certain for something highly uncertain. So John made his choice. He stayed with index funds. He watched Bitcoin climb to 60,000, then 65, then 69,000. He watched Ethereum surge. He watched friends' portfolios grow by percentages that made his returns look pathetic. And he felt something unexpected, not regret, but relief. He had made a decision based on logic rather than emotion. He had chosen a path he understood rather than following a crowd. Whether it was the right decision financially would be revealed later, but it was the right decision psychologically. He could sleep. Then 2022 arrived with a vengeance. The cryptocurrency market collapsed in spectacular fashion. Bitcoin fell from 69,000 to below 20,000, a drop of more than 70%. Ethereum declined similarly. Many altcoins lost 90% or more of their value. Some disappeared entirely when their projects failed or were exposed as scams. The group chat went silent. The birthday party friend stopped mentioning crypto. His college roommate, who had been up 240%, never shared what happened to that portfolio, but the silence was informative. John's index fund portfolio also declined in 2022 as the broader market fell, down roughly 20% from peak. But here is the crucial difference. His decline was temporary market volatility affecting diversified holdings in real businesses producing real products and profits. The cryptocurrency decline was a speculative bubble popping with no guarantee of recovery because the underlying value proposition remained unclear. His friends who held crypto through the crash were hoping for another bull market driven by renewed enthusiasm. John, holding index funds, was waiting for corporate earnings and economic growth to resume, which history suggested they eventually would. The real revelation came in conversations John had with friends after the crash. One admitted losing $40,000, money he had borrowed against his home equity. Another had sold near the bottom in panic, locking in permanent losses. A third still held his crypto, but confessed he checked prices dozens of times per day, unable to stop obsessing over whether to sell. Every single one of them asked John the same question: how do you stay so calm about investing? The answer was simple but profound. He had chosen an investment strategy that allowed him to be calm, that did not require daily monitoring or emotional resilience in the face of 70% drawdowns. What John gained by avoiding cryptocurrency was not just money, though his steady returns compounded nicely while others were experiencing extreme volatility. What he gained was time, attention, and mental peace. He did not spend hours researching coins. He did not experience the anxiety of watching huge unrealized gains evaporate. He did not face the agonizing question of whether to sell near the top or hold for more. He did not develop an unhealthy relationship with price checking and portfolio monitoring. He simply continued his boring routine. $600 per month every month into the same index funds, with maybe a quarterly glance at the overall balance. By 2024, John's portfolio had recovered from the 2022 decline and reached new highs. He had now been investing for roughly 6 years, contributing about $43,000 total. His current balance exceeded $65,000. He was on track toward his goal of financial independence, not through any spectacular bet or perfect timing, but through the unglamorous accumulation of diversified assets over time. Meanwhile, many of his crypto enthusiast friends were back to square one or worse, having experienced the full boom and bust cycle without the discipline to lock in gains before the crash. Here is what John learned that transformed his entire understanding of wealth building. Getting rich and building wealth are not the same thing. Getting rich means experiencing a sudden, dramatic increase in your net worth, typically through a concentrated bet that pays off spectacularly. Building wealth means systematically increasing your net worth over time through consistent behavior and compound returns. Getting rich makes for exciting stories and Instagram posts. Building wealth makes for boring decades followed by comfortable retirement. Most people chase getting rich when they should be pursuing building wealth. John also learned that comparison is the enemy of contentment and good decision-making. When he compared his 12% annual return to someone else's 200% cryptocurrency gain, he felt like a failure. But that comparison was meaningless. It compared his actual result to someone else's best possible outcome at a single point in time. It ignored risk, ignored sustainability, ignored whether those gains were ever realized or simply evaporated in the next crash. Useful comparison would have been his strategy versus their strategy over a complete market cycle, including both the boom and the bust. That comparison looked very different. The most important lesson was about understanding the difference between investing and speculating. Investing means allocating capital to productive assets with the expectation of sharing in the value those assets create over time. When John bought index funds, he was buying ownership in thousands of companies that make products, provide services, employ people, and generate profits. The returns came from actual economic activity creating actual value. Speculation means betting on price movements driven by the emotions and actions of other participants. Cryptocurrency returns came not from underlying value creation, but from new buyers willing to pay higher prices than previous buyers. When new buyers stopped arriving, prices collapsed. Neither approach is morally wrong, but they require completely different mindsets. Investors can be calm because their returns depend on long-term economic fundamentals. Speculators must be constantly vigilant because their returns depend on crowd psychology and perfect timing. John recognized that his personality, his goals, and his life circumstances suited investing far better than speculation. He did not have the risk tolerance for 70% drawdowns. He did not have the time to monitor markets constantly. He did not have the emotional detachment to sell when everyone around him was celebrating continued gains. Acknowledging these limitations was not weakness. It was self-awareness. Looking back, John does not regret missing the crypto boom. What he would have gained in potential returns, he would have paid for in stress, attention, and behavioral mistakes. He would have bought based on fear of missing out rather than fundamental analysis. He would have held too long or sold too early based on emotion rather than strategy. He would have experienced the psychological toll of extreme volatility. The price of chasing those returns would have been his peace of mind, and he decided his peace of mind was not for sale. John's story is not flashy. He never made 10 times his money in a year. He never posted screenshots of massive gains. He never had the thrill of watching his net worth double in months. But he built something more valuable and more permanent, a wealth accumulation system that works regardless of what assets are trending, that requires minimal attention and emotional energy, and that will compound reliably for decades. While others are chasing the next Bitcoin, the next meme stock, the next speculative mania, John is quietly becoming wealthy through the most boring method imaginable: consistent investment in diversified productive assets over a long time horizon. The path to wealth is not exciting. It does not make for viral posts or legendary stories. It does not generate envy or admiration from strangers. It simply works year after year through booms and busts, through trending assets that rise and fall, through countless opportunities to abandon the plan for something more exciting. John chose that path, and he sleeps extraordinarily well at night. This is Harper Mumbling, and if this story gave you permission to ignore the latest trending investment and stick with your boring but effective strategy, I would appreciate it if you would like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who feels pressure to chase speculative returns. Leave a comment below about your own experience resisting investment FOMO and choosing a steadier path. Turn on notifications for future videos about building real wealth without the drama. Thank you for watching, and remember, the best investment story is not the one that sounds most exciting, it is the one that actually gets you to your financial goals. Hi all, welcome back to Harper Mumbling.